This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Hello again, everyone. Thanks for checking in. We've got some big changes in store weather-wise. That air that you wear will be relenting soon. Good riddance. But it comes with a price. Thunderstorms will be roaming the region tonight and tomorrow as a cold front swoops in and sweeps away much of that heat and humidity.
That cold front is actually going to be our friend, and it's going to lop a lot off of the temperature. It just showed you that roller coaster. It's going to be a pretty wild ride next few days.
Meteorologist Rhonda Lee with WETM Television in Elmira says the uggy, muggy, and buggy weather will be sticking around for one more day, but by this time tomorrow, we'll see about a 20-degree drop in temperatures with much lower humidity. Tsunami waves washed ashore along the Hawaiian Islands this morning as residents rushed to higher ground. Smaller waves were reported along Alaska's Aleutian Islands, and in Northern California, folks were told to avoid the beach because of the tsunami. Jennifer Robbins with Hawaii News Now says the tsunami raced across the Pacific Ocean at speeds in excess of 500 miles per hour.
We have been seeing a number of tsunamis, up to about 160. Incredible to see the strength and how far this wave action could travel.
The tsunami generated waves as high as 10 feet tall on Japan's northernmost island of Hokkaido. It was triggered by a massive 8.8 underwater earthquake off the coast of Russia. Meteorologist Matthew Cipino.
The release of this slip between tectonic plates was the equivalent of basically detonating 1 trillion kilograms of TNT.
How about that? Experts say the earthquake that rocked northeast Russia today was the 6th largest ever recorded on planet Earth. There's an effort afoot on Capitol Hill to provide tariff relief checks to American families. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley wants to give some of the money collected from tariffs back to you in the form of a rebate check. If his bill passes, a family of 4 would see a $2,400 check from the federal government. Already this month, Uncle Sam's raked in $28 billion in tariff money from other countries. The Federal Reserve Board expected to hold the line for the 5th straight time today on interest rates. A decision expected this afternoon. Greg McBride with Bankrate.com says the move is prudent.
There's nothing in the economy that's really screaming for them to cut rates. Unemployment's still low. It's around 4.1%. Inflation's still closer to 3%.
The Fed hasn't cut interest rates since December. President Trump's been pressuring Fed head Jerome Powell to lower the rate, arguing it would grease the wheels for economic growth. A vigil held last night in New York City for the 4 shooting victims from Monday night's Manhattan high-rise office attack. New York Governor Kathy Hochul says all of New York's mourning the victim.
The pain is so searing right now. It seems unending.
The killer left a suicide note, blaming football for his mental health problems. The building he targeted contained the corporate offices of the NFL. The shooter claims to have suffered from CTE, a brain disease linked to football. The gunman did play high school football, but he never made it to the NFL. His high school coach, Walter Roby, says he never saw any red flags. Roby spoke to NBC's Aaron McLaughlin.
Did he show any signs of any mental illness?
Not to me, not at all.
Did he ever express concern about CTE?
No. Not to me.
Roby coached the shooter 10 years ago at a high school in California. The gunman killed himself following the shooting and, in a suicide note, requested his brain be studied. The NYPD says it will analyze the brain as part of the autopsy. New data from the CDC takes a closer look at the mental health of today's teens. 19% have general anxiety. 15% suffer from clinical depression. 10% have suicidal suicidal ideations. 3% actually attempted suicide last year.
I think what's going on is the combination of the world, the state of the world, the pandemic that we just went through, and the fact that things are still not back to normal. I mean, social media is no friend of people with anxiety. Isolation that kids feel, the pressure of having to stay connected all the time.
CBS News medical contributor Dr. John Lupuk. Another study claims children who get a smartphone before age 13 have a higher risk of suicide.
Researchers in Virginia tracked over 100,000 smartphone users ages 18 to 24 and found those who had smartphones before the age of 13 showed much higher rates of suicidal thoughts and emotional issues. It found girls were especially affected, with 48% of those who got phones at an early age reporting suicidal thoughts. It also showed the impact of early smartphone use was worldwide, but that English-speaking countries reported the most severe effects. I'm Michael Kastner.
Thank you, Michael. Next up, the Middle East. Efforts continue to get much-needed food assistance into war-torn Gaza.
We flew with the Royal Jordanian Air Force on a mission to drop aid into Gaza, where already nearly 150 people have died of starvation, according to the health ministry. This plane is loaded with about 20 pallets of aid. That's roughly the equivalent of one truck entering Gaza, a drop in the ocean. As we entered the skies above northern Gaza, we could see the shoreline and then a wasteland of devastation and ruin. The pallets were parachuted to the scorched earth below, Palestinians chasing them into the sea.
CBS's Deborah Patta in Gaza today. Pope Leo is condemning a brutal machete attack that left nearly 50 Christians dead at a church in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's the latest in a string of mass murders committed by Islamic terrorists in the DRC and Nigeria. African Christians were attacked last Sunday while praying for peace at a midnight mass. The rebels also burnt homes and took hostages. According to Open Doors, sub-Saharan Africa has become the new epicenter for jihadism. 70% of all the Christians worldwide who've been murdered for their faith this year have been murdered in one country, the African nation of Nigeria. EPA Chief Lee Zeldin calls it the largest deregulatory action in U.S. history. The White House rolling back an Obama-era policy at the heart of the climate change debate. It's a ruling from 2009 that finds carbon dioxide endangers human health.
Emissions from our tailpipes of our cars, that number has fallen significantly over the years. That is specifically because of the endangerment finding. Emissions from power plants, from factories. It really has been the backbone of our climate policy in this country.
Reporter David Schechter. Still to come on the Noon Report, a midweek edition. Eden Cornfest. Getting ready at the Glen, and cannabis shops. Too close for comfort.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. Big changes are ahead in our weather. Forecast details are coming up.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you in about 10 minutes. Thank you. Pennsylvania politicians have just introduced bipartisan legislation that would make schools phone-free. The bill requires schools adopt rules that prohibit the use of phones during the school day. Supporters cite studies that show a rise in mental health issues associated with phone use. Just last week, the Carlisle Central School District voted to ban phones during the school day. 72% of high school teachers say cell phone distraction's a major problem in the classroom. 465 sex abuse survivors have reached a $246 million settlement with the Rochester Catholic Diocese in Western New York. 78-year-old Carol Dupre was just 15 when she was abused by a priest in Marion.
If they gave us all $1 billion, it's not going to fix what happened. It's not the answer to healing, but the process that we went through with this brought healing for me.
Dupre tells Wham News the 6-year legal battle has been hard to endure, and many of the sex abuse survivors are just happy it's over with. She adds the scandals tarnish the faith of hundreds of Catholics in Western New York.
They wanted to love God, and suddenly someone who's supposed to symbolize the love of God is doing something perverted and perverse. And it really messed up a lot of lives.
A judge will approve a bankruptcy plan on September 5th for the Rochester Catholic Diocese. The New York State Office of Cannabis Management has cited more than 150 pot shops for violating proximity laws. The OCM admits it used the wrong calculation to measure the required distance marijuana dispensaries must be from schools and churches. State law forbids cannabis operations from being within 500 feet of a school and 200 feet from a church. New York's making available $250,000 to help each of the affected businesses relocate. One of the 4 shooting victims from the Manhattan high-rise office building attack was a 2020 graduate of Cornell University in Ithaca. 27-year-old Julia Hyman got caught in the crosshairs when the killer took the wrong elevator. Governor Kathy Hochul spoke at a vigil last night.
They say that grief is the price you pay for love. 4 individuals who just a little more than 24 hours ago walked this earth. They were so well loved.
Julia Hyman worked for Rudin Management, which owned the building where the crime occurred. Hyman majored in hotel management at Cornell, where she made the dean's list. She was also captain of her high school lacrosse team. A report is out on how Pennsylvania State Police conduct traffic stops. The independent analysis finds racial bias is not a factor in police citations. This is based on data from over 400,000 trooper-initiated stops statewide. More than 3,000 state troopers were outfitted with body cameras last year to help make law enforcement tactics more transparent. It's racing only twisted, or so they say, and it's coming to Watkins Glen next weekend. The countdown is on for the largest sporting event in the Twin Tiers, NASCAR at the Glen. Watkins Glen International will be hosting thousands of racing fans, campers, and families next weekend. August 8th through the 10th is when it happens.
It is a great family event. We have an expanded NASCAR fan zone for our kids this year, which will be great. Lots of Q&As with drivers this year. So there is truly something for everyone.
Fun for the whole family, says WGI President Dawn Burlew. She tells WENY-TV, even those who are not NASCAR fans love to flock to the Glen this time of year.
We have a lot of campers that come in for the weekend, and they spend their whole weekend at their camper, and people that have been coming for years. Lifelong friendships have been made at the Glen.
Burlew says there's still a few camping spots left of the 4,100 available sites at Watkins Glen State Park. A man in a viral video involving the Buffalo airport's getting more attention than he bargained for. Here's Family Life's Mark Webster.
Yeah, maybe you've seen it online. A man driving one of those oversized golf carts used to transport people around airport terminals. The cart was apparently left unattended with the keys in it. Then came the joyride, captured on cell phone video showing him driving it on one of those narrow people movers. Well, the cart was too big for that, leaving a trail of damage and broken glass. The NFTA says the man from out of state has now been arrested for the ill-advised and unauthorized ground transportation. Mark Webster, Family Life News.
All right, Mark, thank you for that. Sports next. We call it the 2-minute drill, right here on the Family Life Noon Report.
It has happened before, but Bob, it still has to feel really weird for the players. Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. The Orioles and Blue Jays played a doubleheader yesterday, and in between games, Baltimore traded Sir Anthony Dominguez to Toronto for a minor leaguer. So Dominguez walked across the field to his new dugout and teammates. Then in the second game, he pitched against the team he started the afternoon with. He tossed a scoreless inning, but it didn't help. Baltimore took a pair from the AL East leading Blue Jays, 16-4 and 3-2. And the Yankees took advantage. They picked up a game and a half after their 7-5 victory over Tampa Bay. Both Cody Bellinger and Anthony Volpe hit home runs in the victory. The Mets were not as fortunate as San Diego blew open a close game with 5 runs in the 7th inning, and the Padres went on to win it 7-1. Manny Machado hit his 20th long ball of the season for the Fathers. Kyle Schwarber and Brandon Marsh both hit 2-run shots in the Phillies' 6-3 victory over the White Sox. Philadelphia now just a half game behind the Mets for the lead in the National League East. The Pirates' winning streak now at 4 games. They topped the Giants 3-1. Elsewhere around Major League Baseball, the Red Sox, Angels, and Athletics won American League games. The Dodgers, Brewers, and Marlins won National League games. And interleague winners were the Guardians, Tigers, Royals, and Astros. That is a look at sports.
All right, Randy Man, thank you kindly. Still to come on the Noon Report. Rare infection in the water, high water in Hawaii, and failure to launch Part 2. It's today's Real Answers feature report, and it's coming up right after this.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. Well, a myth repeated often in museums, textbooks, and nature documentaries that most people now accept just as dogma is that humans and chimpanzees share about 98 to 99% of our DNA. The Smithsonian Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C., for example, cites that statistic in its Human Origins exhibit as confirmation that, quote, modern humans and chimpanzees diverged from a common ancestor between 8 and 6 million years ago, end quote. The only problem is that the statistic is just wrong, likely by an order of magnitude. Even more, the science community has known that it's wrong for quite a while now. And new methods of comparing the genomes of humans and great apes show just how genetically different the two are. In fact, the cited 1 to 2% difference hasn't been defensible in years now. As far back as 2007, authors in the journal Science called on fellow researchers to retire the myth of 1%. Geologist Casey Luskin explained in a 2023 ID the Future podcast that the estimate was derived decades ago from a single protein-to-protein comparison before the chimp genome was even fully sequenced. And since then, genetic science has become far more precise, and almost no modern comparisons between human and chimp genomes yield the famous 98 to 99% statistic. In fact, more precise methods for comparing genomes show the actual difference between humans and chimps to be far higher than what is constantly quoted. In April, a groundbreaking paper published in the journal Nature gives the complete sequences of various ape genomes not compiled using the human genome as a guide. As Evolution News put it, this data reveals that, and I quote, humans and chimps differ by at least 14%. It's a major revision of the old statistic, end quote. And Luskin, an associate director at the Center for Science and Culture, had to break the bombshell story because the comparison was, for some strange reason, buried deep in the 174-page long supplementary data of the paper. In an open letter to the Smithsonian, Luskin highlighted the research and urged them to correct the now debunked statistic in the Human Evolution exhibit. The number cited, he wrote, is, and I quote, no longer scientifically accurate, leaves the average reader with the false impression that there's only 1.2% genetic difference between modern humans and chimpanzees. Given recent findings, however, the Smithsonian and other museums have no business claiming that DNA evidence strongly supports common ancestry. But no word yet on when the museum plans to correct their exhibit. Look, it's time for this icon in particular to be retired. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
Thank you, John. No retiring Kevin Williams. He's next with your weather.
Here is your family life forecast for this afternoon. Clouds and sun, couple of scattered thunderstorms in the area. Warm, humid, high temps 80s and low 90s. Tonight and tomorrow will turn out cloudy. More numerous showers will arrive overnight tonight, continuing tomorrow. Some hefty rains are likely in parts of central and eastern Pennsylvania. Low temps tonight 60s, cooler tomorrow than today with high temps in the 70s. Friday, early cloud cover and clearing for sunshine. High temps on Friday, upper 60s to the mid 70s.
All right, some much needed heat relief on the way. Thank you, Kevin. This is the Noon Report. I'm your host, Bob Price. Lots to get to. Wednesday, the 30th of July. Tsunami waves hit Hawaii overnight after a massive 8.8 earthquake in northeastern Russia. Fox News meteorologist Britta Merwin.
It is not only the strongest earthquake that we have felt in over a decade, it is the 6th largest earthquake that we have ever recorded on Earth since we've been keeping records. So it's a big deal.
Big deal indeed. The powerful quake caused cliffs off the Russian coast to actually crumble into the sea. The underwater earthquake also triggered tsunami warnings in Japan, Alaska, and all along the U.S. Pacific coast. NBC's Morgan Chesky.
On the West Coast, residents bracing. Piers closing up in California amid tsunami advisories. Water surging in Hawaii, reaching buildings. Tsunami advisories and evacuation warnings spreading throughout the islands. Flights diverted and passengers stranded in airports.
That magnitude 8.8 earthquake was 13 miles deep and triggered a tsunami that raced across the Pacific at more than 500 miles per hour. On Capitol Hill, the House Oversight Committee holding more hearings today on the alleged Biden decline cover-up scandal. Two former top aides to the ex-president have been called to testify. A number of others have pled the fifth to avoid sworn testimony. Biden Chief of Staff Ron Klain told the committee last week that Hillary Clinton had expressed concerns going back to 2023 that Biden's mental decline become a liability of sorts. A vigil happened in New York City last night for the 4 people shot to death in a high-rise office building attack Monday. Aaron McLaughlin with NBC.
They've boarded up the bullet-shattered windows of 345 Park Avenue as investigators are looking into the gunman's mental health.
The killer was a 27-year-old former high school football player who blamed football for his mental health problems. 2 women and 2 men were killed in that shooting, including a 27-year-old Cornell University graduate and a 36-year-old New York City police officer from Bangladesh. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the UK will recognize a Palestinian state if Israel fails to take immediate action to end the war in Gaza. That announcement is not sitting well in Tel Aviv. Israel's prime minister says the UK is rewarding Hamas's bad behavior. Monstrous terrorism is what Benjamin Netanyahu calls it. French President Emmanuel Macron has also said his nation would recognize Palestinian statehood. The Federal Reserve Board wraps up 2 days of meetings in Washington today, and for the 5th straight time, they are expected to leave interest rates right where they are, unchanged at between 4.25% and 4.5%. Business analyst Jill Schlesinger.
Fed Chair Jerome Powell has emphasized that the central bank can afford to wait and see because so far the economy has been able to create jobs and the inflation rate has remained fairly stable.
President Trump's putting pressure on the Fed head to cut interest rates. He argues such a move would provide rocket fuel to the economy. The last time the overnight borrowing rate was cut was back in December. The family of a 12-year-old boy speaking out more than a week after Jason Carr died from a rare brain-eating amoeba. Doctors who treated him for headaches and nausea say it entered his body through his nose. His father, Clarence, says it happened during a 4th of July swim in a popular lake near Columbia, South Carolina.
We're doing the best that we can, but we do not want this to happen to anyone else. We're here to raise public awareness.
Health officials say even though infections like this are rare, they are almost always fatal. At his son's funeral on Saturday, Carr said there is nothing more unnatural than burying a child.
We would give anything to have just one more moment with you, to hug you, to tell you again how much we love you. I held you in my arms when you came into this world, and I held you when you left. I will keep holding you in my heart for the rest of my life.
Carr says his son had dreams of becoming a big league baseball player. There is no law in South Carolina, by the way, to report deaths from these types of amoeba-borne infections. Carr says there should be signs warning of the danger. Movie fans will be getting some special deals at theaters nationwide coming up Monday, August 22nd. Tammy Trujillo Trujillo has details.
2-for-1 deals are coming to theaters around the country. Cinema United and the Cinema Foundation are teaming up to bring 2-for-1 concessions and additional discounts to movie theaters as part of an inaugural event being sponsored by Fandango and called Date Night at the Movies. According to the chair of the Cinema Foundation, the one-night-only event is all about enjoying the big screen with someone special. The event could provide an unexpected spike in what's anticipated to be an otherwise quiet week at the box office. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
All right, Tammy, thank you again. That movie deal at the theater happens Monday, August 22nd. This is the Noon Report, a midweek edition on Family Life.
Well, we'll call it Failure to Launch Part 2. Welcome back to another edition of Real Answers, a regular Wednesday feature during the Family Life Noon Report, where we discuss the issues that matter to families with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. Welcome back, Chris.
Mark, thank you, and it's good to do Part 2 because there's more to talk about.
Yeah, and our last program on the topic generated a fair amount of interest, and you noted back then that there was a lot more material to be covered than one program could really do justice to, so we're going to go plumb the depths a bit more of what is a rising trend in recent years of adult children hesitant to strike out on their own. We'll start with early teaching kids responsibility. That can go a long way to preventing those launch issues later.
Absolutely. And teaching our children responsibility in the home by giving them assigned chores really is twofold. It teaches them responsibility that they are part of the family and everybody needs to chip in to help maintain the house. But secondly, it starts the building of confidence as well as ability to focus. And so starting the kids early is important. And then also, if you're not sure of what is appropriate in terms of a chore for a child of a particular age, there's some good stuff online too about what is good for children of different ages.
Hey, you touched on that lack of ability to focus. That's a big problem these days. We see the whole ADHD thing that seems to have risen, and the video games, we talked about that, and kids just live an instant life from birth practically. Everything's got to be boom, boom, and to try to sit down and focus on something seems to be quite a challenge.
It is a challenge, and I think the failure to focus is multifaceted. Again, screen time, and this started back when the internet started to become very popular, because way back in the 90s, the average time spent on any given web page was only 8 to 10 seconds. Well, that's markedly less now, so you're training your brain to be able to focus less and less. And as far as video gaming goes, the best case scenario is for your adult child to agree that this actually is an addictive behavior that has really no positive benefits. Make sure you have a clear taper-off plan in place, and make sure you communicate that clearly with your child. And honestly, I think it's best to just get rid of them all together immediately and then utilize other forms of recreation, relaxation, and socialization strategies to take the place of that gaming. And yep, there will be a bit of screen withdrawal in the process. That's okay.
Yeah, for sure. You're listening to Real Answers. I'm Mark Webster, along with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson, talking about coping with what's come to be known as failure to launch. Any successful launch, whether we're talking about a rocket ship or an adult kid in a basement, requires a well-planned series of steps, doesn't it?
Yes, it absolutely does. And you want to have some intermediate goals as well. For example, encouraging your child to put together a professional resume. There's so many tools out there to help with that. Applying for jobs, or for example, just filling out forms to, if your child perhaps might be going to college or anything like that. This will gradually push that process in the proper direction. And once again, building confidence in that process so that your child isn't as intimidated by it as well. Absolutely.
It's an intimidating situation once it gets to that point, not only for the kid/adult, but the parents as well, who can really, both sides, I guess, can really struggle with some anxiety.
Absolutely. And if you are a parent and this is intimidating to you, don't worry. I mean, this would be somewhat to be expected, but get some support yourself if you're having a hard time. Get some help from a pastor, from a counselor, or somebody else who can really come alongside and give you the support that you need, because quite honestly, this is going to be a team effort between you and your child.
Yeah, when is it time to seek some outside help? What are some cues there? Because most people, I would probably be in that group too, where I'm hesitant to turn outside for help.
Yeah. Well, if your efforts just don't seem to be getting anywhere, if you're getting up with a lot of resistance and your child is just not participating, because listen, parents, we're not going to be around forever to do this. Go seek some help yourself and or encourage your child to do it. The bottom line is, especially if you've got an older child still living at home, they have to see the value in this and they have to be willing to do it. Get them involved in the process, and even in the planning, training, the more confident they will become.
You've seen a fair number of these sorts of cases. What are some of the main points people should be keeping in mind here?
Well, just remember that your efforts can either encourage or hinder the process. And like I said earlier, if you are having a hard time yourself, there's so much anxiety and fear, go talk to somebody, work on that, so that then you are better equipped yourself as a parent to help with a quote-unquote launching process of your children into independence. And this is so important, folks. The support we get from a good, solid, Bible-believing church is just invaluable. You might have to tweak the plan here and there, but the reality is you're doing this, you're thinking long-term for your child's best interest.
It's almost like when they tell you during the airplane safety lecture, put your own oxygen mask on first before you try to help others.
Absolutely. That is exactly it. Because if you're too scared of the process and you're afraid to ask, get the children to think about leaving the nest, then they're going to become too comfortable. And once they become too comfortable, it becomes even harder.
You've been listening to Real Answers, a Wednesday feature of the Family Life Noon Report, where we discuss the issues important to families with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. Thanks again, Chris.
My pleasure.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Great discussion today on failure to launch. You can catch all our Real Answers podcasts, too, online anytime. They're available at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or our website, familylife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. We've got changes ahead in our weather. A pair of cold fronts will be delivering after a warm day today. Cooler weather and wet weather tonight and tomorrow. Clearing skies and what looks like a beautiful weekend to follow. For this afternoon, clouds and sun. A couple of scattered thunderstorms in the area. Warm, humid, high temps 80s and low 90s. And then tonight and tomorrow will turn out cloudy. More numerous showers will arrive overnight tonight, continuing tomorrow. Some hefty rains are likely in parts of central and eastern Pennsylvania. Low temps tonight 60s, cooler tomorrow than today with high temps in the 70s. Friday, early cloud cover and fog, then clearing for sunshine, except in eastern Pennsylvania. It'll be wet in the morning with showers, then afternoon sun. High temps on Friday, upper 60s to the mid 70s.
All right, that should be welcome news. Thank you very much, Kevin Williams. Oppressive heat about to break, and for many of us, can't come soon enough. Finally, at noon today, the 61st annual Eden Corn Fest will start tomorrow in Eden, New York. That 4-day festival includes live music, the fan favorite corn husking competition, as well as carnival rides and corn cook-offs. All things corn for the next few days in Eden, New York. Event organizer Jeff Winter.
I think the Hometown Pet Show on Thursday night is the best thing on Thursday. Then we have bands and that type of stuff. And then Friday, we've got a race for the corn, which has really grown year after year.
That race for the corn, by the way, is a cross-country race through the back trails of beautiful Eden, New York. The corn husking competition will happen on Saturday. The 61st annual Eden Corn Fest should be quite an event. And that's our world. The world we live in. Wednesday, the 30th of July. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.